I was told a quote by my grandmother one day. She told me, "The stories of the earth are in the grave." So many survivors of sexual assault go unreported, having their stories untold for sometimes decades. You see behind me, the plane crash has left total and absolute damage, wreckage literally everywhere. The homeowners, as well as their cat, are the sole survivors of the crash. It happened as they were sleeping. Now, the strike will last until Wednesday, September 14th. Nurses are hoping and the MNA is hoping that change will come. Negotiations are open until the 14th. Hockey is king in the Northland, but there's a basketball movement underway.
We've more than tripled in size.
Finding space to play is challenging.
I don't know if you can see, but my ears, they're red and they're dying, and I'm out here, my nose is running.
Indoor courts can be hard to come by.
You're talking thousands and thousands of kids that operate in this little tiny space.
Wednesday on WDIO News at 10, hear about the positive impact more basketball courts could have on the Northland.
It's not an exaggeration to say like this saves kids' lives.
In honor of Black History Month, Black History right here in northern Minnesota. Our Amanda Eke is here now with our special report.
For many Minnesotans, going up north for the weekend is just a way of life. But for one group of people, a lake in north central Minnesota is a refuge in the middle of cabin country, a legacy that they must hold on to. It is called Lake Adney, a hidden gem in Crow Wing County. For nearly 100 years, African Americans have been coming there to own a piece of paradise.
He was a mailman, a community mailman, and I would see him off and on and ask him, "How you doing, Mr. Murray?" He said, "I'm doing great." And what have you been up to? "I've been up to paradise." And he would always make reference to paradise. And then I finally asked him a little bit about paradise, and he told me about the lake, a little bit about the history of the lake. And I said, "Wow, you know, we'd like to maybe check that out someday."
A piece of paradise, a starry-eyed wonderland, a place like no other. They call it Lake Adney.
There's wonderful short stories in here about people's experiences from not just the city, but from other places across the country that would come up and spend a weekend or maybe a week.
Yeah.
You know, fishing, playing cards, cooking, eating, just having a great time.
Tell me a little bit about back in the 1980s when you were here, when you first came here. What did it look like in terms of the Black folks that were here on the lake?
I would say probably 80%.
Wow.
On this side of the lake were Black folk. He was a military guy, and then he worked for a mining company or something.
He bought up a big
But he
portion
brought
of
up,
it
yeah.
and sold the plots off to Blacks.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I mean, that was by design, you know, because they know that, you know, this was the only show in town for it.
History, despite its retching pain, must be remembered.
Well, history means so much to me because both my grandparents on my mother's side and my dad's side were born during slavery. And my mother always was a very thrifty person. And we had chickens in our backyard. So she'd go out and run and grab a chicken, and she'd wring the neck, and we'd eat it for dinner. And we'd pick the feathers off. And she'd have a bag, she'd store feathers in it. And when she'd get enough feathers, she'd make a pillow. She'd get enough feathers, she'd make a mattress. So I was brought up knowing that you just value everything.
I spent a lot of time as a child with my grandfather, and I used to get a real kick out of the freedoms that I would have with my grandparents that I didn't have with my parents. And I distinctively remember being able to feel like the big kid because I had a lawnmower up here that I could ride to cut. There were a lot of African Americans that were working there. There were a few people that knew about this area up north, and we're trying to get people to come up here and just kind of relax and go fishing and have a good time. And that snowballed to, oh, we really like it up here. Well, maybe we should buy a place. And some of those close friends of my grandfather. All of them bought property at one time or another on this lake. I feel very fortunate to have had parents and grandparents who had the foresight to see something that they really enjoyed and to put the hard work in to get it to where we are now.
At one time, the cabins on Lake Adney were owned by African Americans not only from St. Paul and Minneapolis, but Omaha and Chicago. A handful of Black-owned resorts in the area drew vacationers from as far away as New York and California, all by word of mouth.
There's a cow horn back here, bell. They ring it.
Right over
As
on
far
that table.
no, it's over here. As far as
Oh,
I
they're
can
right
go,
there, yeah.
as a kid, I could always hear that. And I was like, all right, well, I gotta go back for lunch. I'll see y'all later. But just to have I felt safer here, even though there was animals and things that were dangerous, being able to go off at a distance than I did in the cities, which is kind of wild. I can just imagine what kind of release in space people growing up in a segregated country or an environment that wasn't always friendly, to be able to come up to a place like this and to go out and to be authentic and be comfortable and safe. You know, you go back ready to fight the world. I don't care what I got to go through. I only got this for 5 days. Shoot, after 5 days, I'm out. I'm back up there. So I could see it, and I don't see it going anywhere in our family. But like I said, our goal is to make it a little bit better. Every time we come up here, we're gonna leave it a little bit better. Both of these brothers were Chicago policemen
Really?
that knew each other.
Wow.
And Breckenridge told Giles about the lake. And he eventually moved up here and built the place.
Properties along Lake Adney have changed hands as the years have gone by. There are fewer Black cabin owners along its shores than decades ago. The saying goes, if you're going to live, leave a legacy. Make a mark on the world that can't be erased. For those on Lake Adney, this means everything.
But just the fact that even if they took a little less money, they wanted to make sure that our legacy as the people here in Minnesota and the Twin Cities would go on for forever.
I feel like I'm holding up the family legacy. It's not just her, it's not just my dad, it's not just my grandfather, it's not, I feel that it is really our entire family. This is the family property.
The life.
Everybody should feel that they can come up here whenever they want to come up here and do.
I mean, because when we talk about the legacy, we're tying in something that's bigger than us. We're talking about being able to participate in the world and all the beautiful things we get to participate in. Like we staked our flag. Going back to finding a place, you stake your flag in the ground. That's mine. That's ours. So I mean, it's too much pride and family and memories.
It means helping to create family. That's what I think. That's what I think most about Adney. It creates an opportunity for you to experience family in different ways. When they're in the city, family means I'm running from this place to that place. I'm taking somebody to this lesson. I'm taking you to this meeting. Or I'm going to this meeting. But when we get up here, family figure out what you can do together.
As a poor boy, and I mean really poor boy growing up, the opportunity we had to enjoy the outdoors was a camp at the Overboys Club for poor children in our community. Fast forward, being given the opportunity to be here, it's just, it's unimaginable, for a young boy back at that time. And then for us to be able to be here for 40 years.
Very rarely do you get to cover a story that really grabs you, really makes you take off the mask of journalism and really understand and sit down with people. I can say that the people I've met on Lake Adney have indescribably changed my worldview. I want to thank Nathaniel, Vicky, Malik, Philip, Skip, as well as the Murray Boyd family for their contributions to this piece and sharing their beautiful stories with me. Now, the Minnesota Historical Society has gathered oral histories of some of the African American cabin owners on Lake Adney. This is one of the many books. This one details Nathaniel, Vicky, and Malik's family. You know, there are so many stories from the past 100 years still yet to be uncovered on the lake. And as was said, Darren, black ownership has decreased on the lake. However, the legacy still lives on. Now, to find out more about my conversations with the families on Lake Adney, visit WDIO.com.
Powerful story, Amanda. Thank you.
First recreational marijuana sale. So it's looking high over there. Are the temps looking high here, Justin?
Well, I can tell you right now, pass a bill and all of Minnesota turns green. Look.
Expect quiet weather to continue to. Well, Justin, I read some of your stuff. There we go.
Hey.
All right, good weather, right?
That's
How
all
we
right.
doing?
That's all right. Here, I'll step off here, and that way you can see some of the numbers coming in there. All right, 30s.
Our Amanda Eke is live at the Duluth Airport to find out what's going on and will it impact your travel plans. Amanda.
Yeah, Darren, so tonight, as you can see behind me, it is a still, silent, and pretty empty night at the airport. But yes, you are correct. There's a pilot shortage, and fewer pilots actually means larger flights.
Christmas Eve in remembrance. Chum held a homeless community vigil on the steps of Duluth City Hall this afternoon. Amanda Eke was there for the solemn occasion.
Yeah, Kenny, it was an afternoon to remember and honor the lives that have been lost in the homeless community while also drawing attention to the ongoing homelessness crisis. Take a look. Turns out all that snow may be good for you. Forbes has named Minnesota the third healthiest state to live in. We're at Mount Delac Resort for the Ice Cross Racing International Competition. Ready for nothing but ice, skating, and a whole lot of downhill action.